Well, today, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has already ordered Israel's military to prepare for a, quote, significant expansion of the ground operation, the current incursion ongoing in Gaza. And as the battle continues, more injured people are being rushed to Gaza City's hospital. Israel's primary target is destroying the Hamas underground tunnels into Israel that could carry out attacks on Israelis. Footage released by Israeli Defense Forces shows one of the airstrikes on those tunnels. Meanwhile, a memorial has been set up outside the Dutch embassy following the aftermath of the Malaysian airline being shot down, allegedly. Many people placed flowers, candles, and other toys in honor of the 298 people, some of whom are still missing at this hour, who were on board that flight. The plane went down in Ukraine. U.S. officials believe it was brought down by a surface-to-air missile. And of course, accusations are that pro-Russian separatists backed by Vladimir Putin did that. So far, though, they have denied any involvement as well as Vladimir Putin. More than 30 years ago, on September 5th, 1983, President Ronald Reagan addressed the American people after a Soviet fighter jet shot down a Korean airliner for, quote, invasion of airspace. This is what Reagan had to say.
My fellow Americans, I'm coming before you tonight.
Addressed the American people after a Soviet fighter jet shot down a Korean airliner for, quote, invasion of airspace. This is what Reagan had to say.
My fellow Americans, I'm coming before you tonight about the Korean airline massacre, the attack by the Soviet Union against 269 innocent men, women, and children aboard an unarmed Korean passenger plane. This crime against humanity must never be forgotten.
Man, Reagan did have a way with words, and he was a master of the primetime television address. Of course, not everyone agrees Reagan belongs on Mount Rushmore, but I think most of them are hard for the president to interrupt primetime TV. You know, have you seen what happens when meteorologists try to break into primetime to warn people about potentially fatal tornadoes?
And people just berated our station for him being on the air. But I tell you what, if it was your home and your neighbors, you would feel differently. So please, please don't do that. That's not nice.
Poor Bridget Bennett in the newsroom. Boy, she got an earful on Saturday night.
You can go to abc.com and watch your show.
That was after a meteorologist went on the air to warn people about a tornado coming to their homes. Callers obviously with some backlash there. Now back to the president, though. He has jumped into prime time before, namely the night of the bin Laden raid, but that was on a weekend. Also, you can't fault a president who seems to understand that he finds rhetorical trouble when he goes off the script and deviates from the plan. No one confuses this president for Ronald Reagan, and that includes a frequent guest on this program, Pat Buchanan, a former White House press secretary who, along with a lot of folks, including myself, and critics on the left and right, have thrown up their arms in disbelief and frustration of the state-run media-like press strategy of this administration. But I want to quickly revisit one of the last conversations we had with Buchanan here on America's Forum. 3 months ago, we talked about what was going on in Crimea. Remember Crimea?
You know, Putin is not enormously strengthened by this other than diplomatically and politically at home. He may be at 70%, but he doesn't have a single base now that he didn't have and any greater a strategic position against the United States. And I don't think he wants a second Cold War so much as he wants really to make himself, if you will, the man who brought most or all of the Russian peoples home to Russia and who is the protector of the Russian peoples. I don't think he wants to control Poland or East Germany or Romania or Bulgaria.
Well, check the record on Buchanan. He's been right about a lot of things, including the Iraq War. We haven't been talking too much about Ukraine lately with the situation on the border, the VA scandal, the IRS, and now the CDC. There's no shortage of hot-button issues, government bureaucracies to discuss right here in our own backyards. And as Ukraine continues to simmer, and with this serious flare-up here with the Malaysian airliner, there's understandably a lot of criticism being fired at the White House. But as Buchanan reminds us, it's not the 1980s anymore, and it's not the 1930s, even if Vladimir Putin wants to believe it is and expand the Soviet empire. So I don't know about you, but I'm a little leery of repeated comparisons of Putin to Hitler and Obama to Chamberlain, even in the wake of this most recent man-made tragedy in Ukraine, this latest act of terrorism. Let's not jump into this fight too quickly, and I don't want to diminish the need for a swift response here, but is that really America's job? Yes. Okay, well then can we afford it? Or is the question, can we not afford it? Putin's clearly dangerous here, so who else is going to step up? Last night on the Charlie Rose Show, Hillary Clinton says, it's you, Europe, we're looking at you.
I think that the first question is, what does Europe do? Right. I think the United States has been very clear in both its criticism of Russia and Putin. It's support for Poroshenko and the new Ukrainian government. And there has just been a new round of sanctions that President Obama himself has announced.
So read between the lines there, and if you look centrally now at what Clinton's trying to say here, this is what a centrally focused American foreign policy looks like, what we're seeing right now. Do you see what she did? She might not be the best candidate, but she is a very smart and calculating lady. One of the main reasons Mrs. Clinton is the former Secretary of State and not the current Commander-in-Chief was her support for the Iraq War and Barack Obama's opposition to it. Again, read between the lines there. It appears like she's trying to make sure she does not get outflanked from the left again by doves like Elizabeth Warren, and she might be onto something here. So many of you viewers have been so kind to write in and share your thoughts here in America's Forum. Many of you say there's no need to jump in here. We need to stay out of these foreign military adventures, just like Pat Buchanan said. So we need to be swift here, but avoid a knee-jerk reaction. Let's just think about the still ongoing quagmire of Iraq. Now, based on what Newsmax is reporting, there's a strong case here that Putin has stepped in a big pile of steaming dog crap, and we heard Lisa Ruth and Dan Cochise from the Heritage Foundation say the same thing. With his support for Russian separatists, one would hope the UN will step up here, maybe marginalize Russia, but maybe I'm being naive. Maybe I'm just trying to be too optimistic here. We'll see what's ahead. Much more to come here on America's Forum today. More news and more opinion right here on NewsmaxTV.com after this commercial break.